About a year ago now, Nintendo released their expansion pack to the Nintendo Switch online service, offering up 9 Nintendo 64 games for people to sink their teeth into. I made a video with my thoughts on each of these games, and it was a really fun time going back through some nostalgic favorites of mine and even getting to experience a few new games for the first time. Not all games were winners, but overall I was happy with what was offered. Well, now that a year has passed, the selections of games in the service has more than doubled, up to 19 total games at the time of this recording, with even more coming soon. I thought now would be a great time to make a follow-up video to last year's video, and once again give my thoughts on some N64 games. Now, a quick disclaimer up front, this video will not be focused on whether this expansion is worth the money or not. That is a decision I leave up to you and how much you want to play these games. I want to give my thoughts on the games themselves, almost like short mini reviews for each. Also, these games will be listed in no particular order, so please don't take this ranking as a top 10 of the videos I'm going over. If you're interested in a certain game in particular, I included some timestamps down below. I want to start things off on a good note, so why not start with the game that motivated me to make this video in the first place. Pilotwings 64 is a game I never even thought about trying until one day on Twitter, Nintendo released the perfect trailer to get me to try it.
I wish I had a jetpack. Rocket belt. Have you ever felt like a bird, man? Wanna fly away?
This trailer hit a very personal note in my brain with the music they used. The song in that trailer is a longtime favorite of mine that I've only ever heard in YouTube music compilations. I never actually knew where it came from. I just had to give the game a try after hearing that, and boy I am glad because this game is great. The game offers a surprising variety of challenges to overcome, ranging from something as simple as flying through rings and landing on a runway, to shooting rockets from your gyrocopter at a giant robot throwing boulders at you. Just flying around this game is a treat, letting you loose in full 3D environments with butter-smooth controls over your vehicle. Some vehicles are more fun to fly than others, my favorite being the gyrocopter mentioned previously that can shoot rockets. The game does a great job with the levels to make even the hang glider fun to use. I'm glad I got to experience this game. It is nothing at all like I thought it was, and it is now one of my favorite N64 games. The first of 2 Pokemon games in this video, Pokemon Snap, is a game I've never had too much interest in. I'm a big Pokemon fan. I know this game is a well-loved classic, but when new Pokemon Snap was released for the Switch last year, I barely even blinked. I just didn't really have much interest in the game. Well, clearly I did not realize what I was missing because Pokemon Snap is actually pretty fun. In a way, it reminds me of Star Fox, because it's basically an on-rails shooter, but the shooting is just taking pictures of Pokemon. The game is divided up into several levels, all having their own unique themes and unique Pokemon. Snap brings out a lot of charm in the Pokemon. Getting to see them interact with their environment and one another is just something you don't get to see a lot in the main games. Now, as far as number of Pokemon in the game, it's a little less than half the original 151, but the game makes finding this somewhat smallest of Pokemon fun to learn and experiment with. They aren't all just sitting there waiting. You often have to solve some sort of little puzzle that will change the level down the line or force a Pokemon to evolve. My favorite example of this is the volcano level, where about halfway through there's an egg blocking your path. The game teaches you to knock this egg out of your way and into the lava, hatching a Moltres. Pretty cool, right? Well, what if I knocked more stuff in the lava? Bam! Charmeleon into a giant Charizard. Fun moments like these are in each stage, and I had a blast playing through the whole game from start to finish. The game deserves the loves it gets, and this is a great way to experience it. Who knows, maybe one day I will pick up that sequel. Sometimes, I don't think I'm always truly aware of how much I like puzzle games. I enter a different plane of existence sometimes when playing Picross or Tetris on my Switch, but I never even think to put these games on my short list of favorite games. but I'm going to attempt to change that right here up front and say that Pokemon Puzzle League is now one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games. I thought I played this game for like an hour one Saturday, but that first sit down with the game was almost 3 hours. I was so caught up in the game that I beat it and immediately started playing it again on a hard difficulty, which is not typically a guarantee for me. The game hits all the right notes with its quick, satisfying, match-style puzzle gameplay, but I really loved all the classic Pokemon anime artwork and cutscenes. I, like many others I'm sure, have a strong nostalgic connection to my childhood watching the Pokemon anime, and this game takes full advantage of that. The game pits you against familiar characters from the show as you switch, match, and stack different blocks, sending junk to your opponent's side with a goal to fill their screen and win the game. Now, I'll be up front and say I never really got good at comboing these matches together, but damn, the game is just so quick and snappy, even the simplest of matches was fun for me to pull off. Another thing I was really unsure of was the difference it makes with which Pokemon you pick before you play. My first thought was if you had some sort of type advantage over your opponent, things would be easier, but if that was the case, I never really noticed it happen. Typical Ash, throwing out a Squirtle against a much more capable evolved Pokemon. Just ride or die with his fellas. But yeah, if you like puzzle games, especially color matching puzzle games, Pokemon Puzzle League is a must play. Now so far, I have liked each game to some extent. Each game had something fun and unique to offer, or just had really solid gameplay. I hate to say it, but that changes here because I do not enjoy the N64 offering from my pal Kirby. First things first, this is an N64 game. Really looking for some solid 3D action, but what Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards offers is a slow, honestly pretty boring 2D platformer that you use the D-pad to move around with. It just feels strange playing an N64 game not using the joystick. And let me be clear, I like 2D platformers, but this game just does not check any of the boxes I'm looking for with them. The most obvious thing is the visuals. The game has 3D models for all the characters, but I can't say it does the game any favors. With other N64 games, I get nostalgic for the look of early 3D art. But with a Kirby, I cannot help but feel like this slow 2D movement and the 3D models are at odds with one another. If I'm going to play an old 2D platformer, I would rather just play something on the SNES. Kirby games before this one have looked better and played better. It is upsetting because it is fun to see some classic Kirby enemies and bosses in 3D, but I can't help but have that what it could have been feeling, especially now that I've played a phenomenal 3D Kirby game in Forgotten Land. This game just feels like it was afraid to move forward with the times, and it feels especially dated now. Who knows, maybe Kirby was just the sacrifice to try and have something for those who do not enjoy 3D games at the time. Also, this game has maybe the silliest, easiest King Dedede fight I have ever experienced. Dude did not stand a chance. The racing game from the original look at the N64 pack, Mario Kart 64, left much to be desired in my opinion. I saw no real reason to play that game while Mario Kart 8 exists. Luckily, this time around, there's a racing game that is more than worth checking out in F-Zero X. Right off the bat, this game feels good to play. It has no reason feeling as smooth as it does. The smoothness, combined with the expected F-Zero speed, makes for a damn good time. Now I honestly kind of expected this to be the case going into this game because I've played F-Zero on the SNES and the Game Boy Advance prior to trying out X. The difference here for me is that F-Zero X feels much more forgiving, thus much more enjoyable for me. The original F-Zero was pretty hard for me to get a handle on, and having to white knuckle every turn left me feeling more anxiety than joy. Maybe I just have improved my F-Zero skills, but I never felt that while playing X. I felt like I had plenty of room to make my turns, even the tight turns, and I was not exploding into 1,000 pieces nearly as often. But of course, that still happened from time to time. I spent most of my time with F-Zero when I needed something to play but did not know exactly what to play. It was fun just to pick up the controller and speed around for 10 to 15 minutes and win some races. As much as I like this game, I kind of resent it now because now I just want an F-Zero game on the Switch even more than I realized. Mario Golf 64 is a game I have very early memories of. It's one of the few games I actually own physically for the N64, originally belonging to my sister, and these memories are fond. I remember Toad always waving his little flag at me saying OB because I hit the ball out of bounds because I had no idea what I was doing, but that did not matter to me as a kid. I do have some bias for this game because of all the fun I had, but I'll try to be honest with myself and get some of the negatives out of the way. Playing the game now, I can definitely feel the stiffness of the controls, and even just trying to get an idea of where my shot's gonna land is not super easy. I've been so spoiled by the very easy to play Mario Golf Super Rush on the Switch, to where it's kinda hard to come back to this game even though I love it so much. It's still a quality golf game, I just wish I had an easier time controlling it. Some pluses for this game is it has a good variety of game modes. Not only do you get a traditional stroke play, but there's mini golf and this fun knock the ball through these floating rings mode. Mini golf is a favorite of mine, which is a great time. One of the funniest things about this game that I did not really appreciate as a child is the characters you start off with. Who is it, you may ask? Mario? Luigi? No. You start with 4 characters. Peach, Baby Mario, okay, I guess those would make sense, but who are the other 2? Oh, just the very well known and loved Plum and Charlie. This game has several of these random generic humans peppered in the roster, and honestly it makes me laugh when I look at it. If you want to play as Mario, you know, the guy in the front of the box and in the title, you have to unlock like 5 other characters first just to get the honor of challenging him. But thankfully, you'll have Sunny and Harry on your side by this point, so you should be fine. If you want to skip all the character unlocks and just unlock everything, courses, characters, and all, there is a cheat code which you can enter, which I certainly took advantage of. So yeah, Mario Golf 64. I love this game, so of course I want everyone to try it, but your mileage may vary depending on how the fluidity of the game will gel with you. One corner of the Nintendo games history I do not have much experience with is the extreme sports games. 1080, Excitebike, and in this case, Wave Race 64, are all dark spots for me that I don't have much experience with. Happy to report, Wave Race 64 is well worth me checking out. I mean, look at this lovely blue goodness. That is some water if I have ever seen it. The main gameplay I would say is the Championship mode, which is just a series of races similar to what you'd find in a Grand Prix and Mario Kart. There's also time trials and stunt modes if racing isn't your thing. I had a lot of fun just goofing off in these modes as well. Worth noting that as much fun as I was having, this game was pretty hard for me to get used to. I was not very good at it at all, but that did not affect my enjoyment of the game. Wave Race 64 is just one of those games that's fun to control and move around in, even if you're getting beat down by your opponents. The waves you spend your time bouncing around on were a little hard for me to predict and read, so I felt like I was just getting thrown around. I really had to buckle down if I wanted to win a race. I really liked the freedom of the tracks to kind of move where you wanted, and felt the yellow and red L and R buoys were generous enough guides to not force me down a narrow path. Sometimes they did require me to carve some tight turns, but these felt very good to pull off. So yeah, Wave Race 64 is a blast. I don't think I care enough to sit down and practice my water sport craft to improve and win all the races, but I know I will turn the game on in the future just to goof around and go off some ramps. Growing up, I did not have a whole lot of N64 games. Because of this, I missed out on a lot of classics. When I think of 3D platformers in the N64, I think of one game and one game only, Mario 64. But many people would think of another game, Banjo-Kazooie. I had never played a Banjo game until this one was added to the Switch. In fact, the first time I ever actually controlled Banjo was in Smash Bros. For the record, I did have Diddy Kong Racing as a kid, and while Banjo was in that game, I just could not pick him over my boy Tip Top. I've heard time and time again that Banjo-Kazooie is up there with Mario in the quality on the N64, so I've been really excited to give this game a try. First impressions were great. Banjo was fun to move around as, and the open areas that let you loose in were great. Collecting music notes is fun, and looking for secrets and other collectibles is just as fun as everyone always says it was. So my first hour or so of the game was awesome. Banjo was not as fun to jump around as Mario was, but searching these great levels for secrets and collectibles was a great time. Where it started to turn on me is from when I died for the first time. Where are all my music notes? I had like 90 out of the 100. What do you mean I have to collect them all again? That does not make much sense. Sure, this issue is easily avoided if you just use the save state function built in the NSO, but I was not expecting to need to do that. I don't know, it just felt against what the game wanted me to do. Hey, go collect things, but if you die, start over. It did not feel very good. Outside of that nitpick, the game was still a good time. The music, while maybe a bit repetitive, was a jolly old time, and the dialogue between the characters was often funny, the best being conversations with our little mole friend, Bottles, who was always talking mess. But I can't sit here and tell you the dialogue was always great. There's a common thread of rhyming dialogue, and a couple hours in it starts to get laid on a little bit too thick. But honestly, the story and dialogue is not what you come for in this game, so I just ended up ignoring it. Fun abilities are common and keep the gameplay fresh. A favorite of mine is when you get down on the back of Kazooie and go into maximum overdrive to book it up hills. So all in all, Banjo is a fun game. I did not complete it, but I did the first 4 or 5 worlds, and one day I'll be more than happy to pick it back up and try to finish it. I'm a big RPG guy, and an even bigger Mario guy, so the idea of putting these two things together has always sounded fun to me. The first Mario RPG I played as a kid was Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga for the Game Boy Advance. And back then, I did not know there was already a couple other great Mario RPGs I could have been playing. Almost 2 decades later, here I am, trying out Paper Mario on the N64 for the first time. Now, Nintendo being Nintendo, what better art style to choose for your first 3D console than a paper aesthetic? Paper Mario is a well-regarded turn-based RPG that has made way for several sequels. The recent games, Origami King for example, have some unique battle systems to try and set the games apart, or maybe just to spice things up. Variety is the spice of life, you know. Paper Mario on the N64, however, is a pretty safe RPG. Following suit from its predecessor, Mario RPG, Paper Mario mixes in input timing into its battle system to increase damage while attacking. Not only that, but there are several fun little interesting ways the game challenges you to make sure you don't get bored while picking moves. Mashing the A button, pulling back on the joystick, and a variety of other special actions make choosing simple moves fun. The badge system, acting almost like skills or abilities for Mario, let you customize your playstyle to fit your needs. I enjoyed the decent variety in this battle system, even if it was honestly pretty easy. The game overall is a little on the simple side, probably meant for a lot of people as an introduction as their first RPG. But exploring this bright, charming world was a great time, looking for little secrets and solving puzzles, and the dialogue was as clever as I had hoped it would be, me being a big fan of later games under the Mario RPG umbrella. Paper Mario 64 is a great time, but I will be honest and say it does go on a little bit too long. The game is simply just not deep enough with player progression or the battle system to justify its runtime in my opinion. But it was enjoyable enough for me to push those last several hours and finish it. I would say give it a shot. You'll probably enjoy your time. Alright, I saved the big one for last. The first batch of N64 games came with the most highly regarded games of all time in Ocarina of Time. I played that game through a couple times now in my life, and it's one of my favorite Zeldas. What I have not played through is Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time's twisted cousin that released less than 2 years later. I don't know how I have not played Majora's Mask yet, but I was very excited to get the opportunity to fix that on Nintendo Switch Online. And just to be honest up front, at the time of this video, I'm only about 5 to 10 hours into Majora's Mask, but spoiler alert, I'm enjoying it enough for where I feel I have no doubt I'm going to finish it soon. Majora's Mask opens up with Link having a nice stroll through the forest, only to get mugged by a creepy masked demon boy forest monster thing, Skull Kid. Link loses Ocarina of Time and his horse Epona for good measure, and is thrust into the world of Termina. Now if you've played Ocarina of Time, you're going to feel very familiar with Majora's Mask right off the bat. Same UI, same equipment system, same controls, but where Majora's Mask sets itself apart from its older brother is the mask system and the 3-day cycle in which you are bound to. As you play the game, the day-night cycle will be moving right alongside you, changing the locations of NPCs and things you can accomplish depending on what kind of day it is. It's a pretty cool concept that I can't wait to see more of. It may feel a little stressful at first, but really there's not a whole lot of pressure on you as you can just reset the 3-day window back to the start by playing a song you learned early on. Doing this brings you back in time, but you keep all your items, maps, music, etc. that you gathered. You also gain knowledge of what events to look out for to be better planned for the next set of 3 days. It's a unique concept, especially for the time, and really helped up the stakes even when doing simple tasks. This game is full of fun cameos from characters from Ocarina who may look a lot like a character you know, but is an entirely different person with all new motivations and personalities. Majora's Mask, being a mainline Zelda game, has all the things you would expect: clever puzzles, unique environments, and a banger soundtrack. It's all there. So far, so good on my journey through Termina. Majora's Mask more than justifies itself next to Ocarina. I can't wait to dive even deeper into this weird, twisted Zelda world. It's making for a great Halloween time game, masks and all. So there you have it. 10 more games on the Nintendo Switch Online service to try out. And I'm honestly pretty happy with what is here. Out of the 10, I found at least some level of enjoyment, and often a lot of enjoyment from like 9 of them. Sorry Kirby, but you made me feel more sad than anything. Not only were the games great, but honestly there's some good variety on the service. Platformers, RPGs, puzzle games, adventure games, very well rounded. The N64 has a great roster of games, and I can't wait to try out even more games in the future. Just keep my fingers crossed they finally add Smash 64 in here. If you liked this video and you want to hear my thoughts on the first 9 games in the service, I'd love it if you checked out my older video. I had a blast making both of these videos and getting to experience and re-experience some great N64 games. Let me know in the comments what your favorite game from this video is, or maybe a game you want added in the future. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it, and if you made it this far and you'd like to leave a like on the video, I would appreciate that too. If you want to see more reviews and other random gameplay videos, streams, and discussions, consider subscribing as well. Thanks again, and see you next time.